I don't know the origin of life. I'm just saying there are things that indicate to me that these things happen. But I'm just saying you don't have any evidence for a mind existing outside.
Wait a minute. You made I think that was a very great thing that you just said. You don't know, but you claim that I don't know because you don't know. Is that right?
Well, I don't know everything about it, but I have a lot of evidence that convinces me to lean in a certain direction. There is no evidence that a mind exists outside of a...
Let's make one statement at a time here. If we're going to have a discussion, I'm not really going long. I'm trying to keep it concise with you. You said that you actually adhered to a theory. Now you're telling us that only now are you getting evidence to prove that theory. So basically...
We're getting modifications in the evidence, and we don't know everything about this.
Now, you know what's happening, Mr. Server? One thing you're not doing is you're not answering my first question. I answered yours. I believe that a mind is responsible for bringing the brain into being. Now, I want you to go ahead and tell our community what you think is the origin.
I think just nature. I think the universe has always been here, grinding. It's way beyond our comprehension at this point.
Wait. Now, you're trying to talk to us about something way beyond our comprehension tonight, and you want us to listen to you?
Well, no, I'm just saying...
No, you don't want us to listen to you? Which is it?
No, I do.
You do want us to listen to you about something you don't comprehend.
No.
No, you don't want us to listen to you.
Johnny, you're slick.
No, you're just, listen, sir, you're just chattering tonight.
Still not answered my question.
I answered your question, but tonight you have not answered our simple question.
In the brain, how is it going to have a rotted brain there that's still thinking?
Now, sir, you've already asked that question. I already have gone through that. I said the same way that brain started out of a mud hole. And you have yet to tell us what your naturalist view is as to origins. You said you don't know, but you still want us to listen to what you don't know.
You don't believe a brain came out of a mud hole, but you do believe that a rotten brain can think. Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that. That's what you said. You said that the end of the body is rotting, and I'm saying that the brain actually continues on. Now, I want you just to go ahead and be honest, Mr. Server. Tell the community what you all believe as naturalists. How did it all come to be? Go on and tell.
I was trying to tell you.
No, you weren't.
It's always been here.
What did you say?
Combinations of molecules, and I think the atoms of hydrogen in the sun are the same as the atoms of hydrogen in your jawbone.
Did you say you think that?
Wait
a minute. Did you say you think that? Has anybody been to the sun and measured the molecules of hydrogen on the sun?
Well, there's a great deal of it.
Wait a minute now.
Wait a minute.
That's what I thought.
Into helium.
That's what I thought. You don't want to answer that question, do you? Has anybody been to the sun to measure the molecules of hydrogen so that they can, in fact, prove they're the same as the jaw?
You don't have to go to the sun. You have spectrometers and other instruments that religious people don't spend too much time.
You know what, sir? You're talking to one religious person that I do study this because I am not putting my salvation, my soul, all of the way I spend my life on a bunch of foolish stuff that these people that say born in sin and all that chatter. I agree with you on that chatter. I'm not putting myself into that, and I guarantee you, sir, I can keep up with you if you want to come on here. We can see right quick.
Just invite me on. I'll be there.
Well, let's go. And what we're going to do is just like we've done tonight. You don't know the first thing, sir. You're simply saying that we don't either because you don't. But I'll say this, sir. We do know some things, and I'll be happy to have you on the show.
Love to come on your show.
When are we ready?
Anytime.
All right, I'm through with this tent. After next week, we'll have you on, if you're willing, either the first Sunday.
Good evening, everybody. This is What Does the Bible Say? My name is Caleb Robertson. I am a Christian. I do evangelistic work with the body of Christ, and this broadcast tonight is live. It is a live interactive show. You can call in at some point. We're going to have phone numbers come up at the bottom. And what we're dedicated to doing is, look, we're very, very much, if you got to hear the audio that was going on before this, actually the picture came in, look, we want to be involved in critical thinking, and we are fine facing opposition. I don't want to have a viewership of this broadcast of only people who agree with me. Okay, I want us to have free thinking. I want people to basically hear this broadcast and say, no, I don't agree with that. This is where I'm going to challenge it. That is fine. Now, I am a Christian, and this is what we're trying to do. We want to end religious division. We want unity based on conformity to the New Testament text. Now, If you are, we're going to be talking about atheists and agnostics. The atheist is someone who says there is no God. The agnostic says, I don't know. I don't know that I believe like you guys do, but I don't know that I'm just coming out and saying that there is no God. He's just in the middle. So, as we do this tonight, I want to talk to those people, right? So, for the atheists and agnostics, if you're watching this and you're hearing me, I need you to know I'm not Roman Catholic. I'm not Anglican. I'm not Methodist. I'm not Lutheran. I'm not Southern Baptist. I'm not Mormon. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. And so, you say, I'm an atheist, but I've been studying the religious community, and if you're not any of those things, I don't know what you are. I am a Christian only, like you would read in the New Testament. If you're reading the Bible, you will basically find what I'm trying to practice. I follow the epistles. I'm trying to practice New Testament Christianity. I'm not following sectarianism and tradition and creed books. And if you're a religious person tonight, you should not be doing those things either. If you look at Galatians 5:19 and 20, Paul's going to condemn sectarianism. Now, this is my contact. We got to get moving because we got a lot tonight. 276-806-3641. If you're local to the North Carolina and Virginia area, you'd like to get together in person and have Bible conversation, you can do that. That's how we'll set it up. My email is calebgrobertson@gmail.com, and if you email me, we'll get you on the Informer list, which is a page-and-a-half Bible article that we send out every Sunday morning, and we're doing a little bit of a series about digressives, people, things like doctrine doesn't matter. Well, they say that, but then what do? They argue about doctrine. So, page-and-a-half Bible article, calebgrobertson@gmail.com. One more thing. Excuse me. If you're watching this tonight on Star News, and let's say this, you're local to North Carolina, Virginia, you say, now, I'm not atheist or agnostic, but my cousin Ted over in Wisconsin, he is agnostic. Well, you let Ted in Wisconsin or whoever, wherever, on their smartphone, laptop, smart TV, tablet, iPad, they can watch What Does the Bible Say on YouTube. All they have to do is go to, if you want to put it in Google, YouTube, Johnny Robertson. This all will come up. Let's go back over here just really quickly. It will come up. They'll get the purple-white banner, and they'll get the Watch Live icon. You'll see my dad's picture, Johnny Robertson. That's his name, Johnny Robertson. This is what it will all look like. Now, tonight I'm doing a part 2 to what we did last time that we had this. I don't remember the last time I was on, if it was Sunday or Thursday. But this is what I went through. If you say, I am agnostic, and you say, and I've been reading the histories of the religious community, and it's not good, I hear you, okay? Look, these are all Southern Baptists, and they do not have a great reputation. Now, if you go over here to the YouTube channel, and you go to, where is it? What was it? Last Thursday, Baptist Church and a History of Violence. Now, if you go back and watch that, that's part number 1, and you'll see how all those Southern Baptist individuals played in. But then you'll have individuals who are Protestants, like Patrick Hamilton and George Wishart, and basically them being persecuted by cardinals and archbishops within the Roman Catholic sect. You say, I look at religious history, and it's awful. You're looking at sectarian history. Not everybody who is going to be claiming religion is actually going to be a real New Testament Christian. And then if you're an agnostic, you say, well, how are you making this determination? I take the man-made sects, Anglicanism, Roman Catholicism, Lutheranism, and I compare them to what I read in the New Testament. They don't match up. They don't teach the same things. They don't practice the same style of worship. They're not those people. And I know if you're an atheist or an agnostic, you're probably at home saying, we already knew that. We've been doing that. And I'm saying, to your credit, atheists and agnostics, they more times than not actually study real New Testament ideas better than the sectarian groups do. To your credit, guys. I mean, I give it to you. There's a lot of people, they'll say I'm an atheist or I'm an agnostic, and they will know a lot of Bible information. But the problem that you guys are having is you look at the sectarian world and you say it's a mess, and that's where I say, hey, I agree with that. They are a mess. But here's what we're doing tonight. Part 2, I'm saying atheists are actually not having any better of a run. Atheists are going to have a history of violence. They're going to have basically no presentation of any type of moral standard. And even if they tried to present a moral standard, that is subjectivism, subjectivity. Look, that's just, hey man, your opinion against my opinion. So here we have tonight, on the far end, that is Richard Dawkins. Now, he is alive today. He is basically, I would say, the foremost expert or authority as far as the atheist community goes. Richard Dawkins. In the middle, you have Alfred Kinsey, and a lot of people know him and a lot of people don't, but he's basically called the father of the sexual revolution. And I will have his book tonight and we will look at it. It's called The Human Male and Sexuality. It might be called something else. Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, Alfred Kinsey. And then, of course, that's Charles Darwin. And so tonight, here's what I want to do. I want to play a clip of my dad and some of myself, our interaction with local atheists. But here's my point. As we start playing this video, some people are going to say, well, these people are not authorities. They don't represent anything. They're just some, local dude. Well, one of them is a physics teacher in the public school system, or he was. He has passed on now. But when he was alive, he was a teacher in the public school system. So he's somebody that basically gets to mold young minds. So he's not a nobody. But you say, these are just local guys and they don't really represent anything. No. They actually represent very much, and this is what I mean. These are the authorities, and these authorities create the people that I'm going to show you, right? Larry Serber said that Richard Dawkins was fantastic, and he said Charles Darwin was his idol. Okay. These men produce your local atheists. These men produce your local agnostics. Now, these individuals, and I have to give some background to this. This whole discussion, look, Lawson Robertson, that's my dad. This whole discussion is on YouTube. And some people, they will get on the YouTube channel and they'll watch the entirety of this and they'll say, no, this didn't make any sense to me and I don't know why Johnny Robertson did it. This man has moved, but, and I have to say this, some people who are in the body of Christ, they cannot imagine how much local interaction we have in this area. So when you watch my dad discussing with this local agnostic man and you say, I just can't imagine it, I'm sure that you cannot, because your preacher doesn't do any work and nobody knows who y'all are. I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm just saying this is the reality of it. This man was getting airtime in the local community and just spouting off nonsense. He was trashing everybody, just like, I don't even know why he did it, but he was saying local people worked for the devil. He was calling a bunch of people felonious adulterers, and it's like, he's an agnostic. Is anybody going to shut him up? Well, none of the sectarian preachers tried, but this is how the interaction goes. Now, here's what I'm saying. You're an atheist, you're an agnostic, and you say, I've looked through religious history, and it's filled with violence. I'm saying this is the type of a man that is produced by Richard Dawkins, Charles Darwin, Alfred Kinsey, known and popular and authoritative atheists. Now, here we go. This is going to be lengthy, so here we go.
To the community, why are you bringing up Darwin?
Because you forced me to.
I did?
Yeah.
I control you.
I
control you?
John, if you knew how little control you had over me,
I forced you,
or
you just
how
said.
insignificant you are to me.
You're later going to say.
You're a vermin to me is
You're
all
going
you
to later
are.
say. I thought it was roadkill.
When does it count to be a...
Did you say just about an hour ago you had hit me in the back of the head in a sports?
No, I did not. I said I would love to have him in a boxing ring.
And you do what?
I said I would probably...
And you do what?
I said he's so cowardly I'd have to hit him in the back of the head because that would be the only acceptable
Okay,
face.
so still today, you wished I'd get in your face. That's what you said.
I do
played that.
I do.
Okay, now watch this. Watch
You're
this.
smarter than
watch
that.
this. Watch this. You didn't want to answer that question.
What's the question, Johnny?
The question was...
I get to determine what. I'm an individual. If you walk in my house, you're going to get hurt.
We're not talking about your house. We're talking about at the studio where you wished you to follow through and slap Charles.
Okay.
Now, I have to stop because things are going so fast. What do you have, number one? Right out of the gate, y'all, it will, if you watch the entirety of this, it will be this way all the way through. If it wasn't so serious, it would be hilarious. Bob Lawson was one of the funniest people that came on because he is so wild. But he's an agnostic, and he has no governing principles. Right out of the gate, what did he say to my dad? And it's not just because it's my dad. We don't talk to people this way. He said to Johnny, Johnny, you have no idea how insignificant you are to me. You are vermin. And then my dad said, I thought I was roadkill. Look, who do we talk to that way? And then the next part was he said he would love to beat my dad in the back of the head, beat somebody in the back of the head. And then he said about the station owner, he's getting to be on this station because Charles Rourke allowed it. And he said, I'd love to slap Charles Rourke. Why is this individual, an agnostic, who hates religion so much and thinks that religious people are so awful, why is he so wound up and wanting to hit everybody? Keep going.
You determine what's wrong.
How does he determine?
We're talking about you, Bob.
When you step over the line, Johnny, I'm a street man. When you step over the line, there's consequences.
Oh, really?
You get in my face, there's consequences.
Okay, now.
You come to my house, there's consequences.
These are Bob Lawson's rules.
No, those are everybody's rules.
Really?
You betcha.
Really?
You
I
betcha.
got to ask on that one because that's the night you walked off. I asked you about medication.
No,
You
when you go across the line and you start talking to a veteran about post-traumatic stress, Charles, you've gone too far. And you're lucky some post-traumatic stress victims, you'd be in the ground right now.
Well, why isn't that a fair question?
It's not a fair question.
Okay.
You have no earthly idea of what that denotes, Charles. None whatsoever. So don't even go there
That's
now.
the Bob Lawson rule also.
Don't even go there now. No, you wouldn't know because you're a draft dodger, and probably you're a draft dodger.
I wasn't even old enough to be in the draft.
There's always been people can join the army.
Oh,
So let's stop again. He goes from, I'd like to hit Johnny, I'd like to slap Charles, to if you ask him about his medication, he says, man, I could put you in the ground. Well, he's wanting to have my dad take like a psychiatric test, and you can't ask Bob about his medication. So you have this person coming on, and that's why someone says, I don't even understand why Johnny Robertson is wasting time with Bob Lawson. Bob Lawson was a mouthpiece in the community. And what was he doing? He was attacking the New Testament. Now, someone might say, well, he was talking trash about the sectarian groups. We have to make a distinction between the real church of the Bible and the sectarian groups. Bob Lawson didn't make that distinction. So again, some people wouldn't understand, and I would say you don't understand because you've never interacted in the local community to this degree. But when you do start working with agnostics, this is what it's going to look like.
true.
Well, you got to have some fact there.
Okay, so the homosexual gene.
The homosexual gene, a person is born with it. There's something goes wrong during their birth that mixes up their chromosomes, the hormones, and things of that nature. No person on this earth would choose to be a homosexual. I have great compassion for people that are homosexuals, and it's not their fault.
Girls.
How can you have compassion for homosexuality and then use the word faggot?
Because that was a derogatory term I just laid on you, Charles, because that's what came out of my mouth. But everybody...
But
Why
obviously-
don't you answer the
but
question?
obviously
I did answer the question.
That's not compassion, though. And you've been
Well,
saying...
now I have compassion. Then I didn't.
So see how this goes? He's an agnostic. Now you might be saying this dude is a nut. He is the product of Richard Dawkins, Charles Darwin, Alfred Kinsey, and the rest of the authoritative atheists and agnostics. You cannot separate him when he is espousing their stuff. Now, what's their stuff? He comes in, he says, well, the Bible is a book of fairy tales. What? Wait. Even the part, like I'm saying, y'all, even the part where Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. I don't understand why y'all want to throw the moral concepts out because what? I don't even know, but I am going to talk about some of the ideas that go beyond or go behind, come from the formative years of atheist people, okay? Now, we're not done. So here he says, well, I didn't have compassion then, but now I do. It's not a serious thing for him. And you basically heard the way that he described homosexuals. He gets angry. He said that was a derogatory term, Charles. I just laid it on you. Well, he has no ideas, no principles that are reeling him back in. When he gets mad, he just loses control. Well, I'm trying to practice self-control. And I'm saying New Testament documents that give these governing moral principles. Bob Lawson does not.
I think that's what we're saying. You're one way one time.
Deborah Buchanan,
You
a lot of...
said that you believe that it's still true that the people that work there are probably either felonies or adulterers, and I'm neither.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Well, actually, Bob, aren't you an adulterer?
No,
Well, what does the Bible say adultery is?
I don't care what your Bible says,
Well, then
Johnny.
why are you talking about them being adulterers?
They're
See,
talking...
that's what we're talking about. You are simply a double-standard person.
Okay, then I am.
They're
Johnny.
all
I am.
adulterers,
I love
but
me,
you
though,
don't
Johnny.
even...
People love me, Johnny, and they don't love you. Wonder why that is.
Well, I think they're actually finding out how you really are tonight.
Well, okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Are you...
Four lies.
Now, he would talk about the employees of Star News, and he said they're a bunch of felonious adulterers. Bob, aren't you an adulterer? First he says no, and then when you start pressing him, Bob Lawson's had 4 marriages. And someone says, well, his wives could have died. That's not how it worked. He's an adulterer. And he is hypocritical while calling people out for doing the exact same thing that he's guilty of. But he doesn't care. And he will say this about these people. Can I make a point here? Someone might say, well, Caleb, man, you know, you've called some people out on some stuff and it's been rough. I am doing this because I have concern for their eternal soul. He doesn't even believe in eternity or the idea that you are a soul. He just thinks you're just like a mass accumulation of cells. So why is he talking about people's adultery? See, products of Charles Darwin, Richard Dawkins, right here, Bob Lawson.
Okay. Now, did you say that that Jessica worked for the devil?
No.
Okay.
Do you have a clip?
Sure, I have a clip.
Let me.
Why don't we just?
Well,
do you?
No, okay, I don't know what. Well, if I did, then I did.
Now we're going to change it, aren't we?
No, see, that's why I hate
How about we just do this? How about we just do this?
Well, just
let me ask you a
okay,
question.
but when I say things, when you say it, you know it's a lie. I didn't know that was a lie. If I did, I did. But if I don't know it's a lie, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to tell a lie.
Is that selective amnesia like you?
No, that's what you have. That's what you have.
Okay, well, do you want me to prove it? How about we just start with this? Let's just see if you'll be.
And
consistent.
if it did, it was in a fit of anger.
Oh.
And
So Bob Lawson, the agnostic, just said, if I lied, I didn't know it was a lie, and I didn't mean to tell a lie unless it was a fit of anger. He has no self-control. And I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to introduce new atheists. Like you say, well, it's just one dude, Bob Lawson. It's more. Keep watching.
I said lots of things about Charles Rourke. I said lots of things about you.
I haven't.
You're a liar. That's 5.
Okay.
So you're kind of angry guy. Yeah.
Now, this, again, local personality. He chose to come on TV. His name is Troy. Troy is an ex-Marine. He is agnostic. He would say he's agnostic. You ever hear somebody say, like, I want to believe in the God of the Bible, I just can't? Well, he will make that statement. He said, I'd like to believe, I just can't. So he's an ex-Marine, he's agnostic, and he's a practicing homosexual. Now let me go back just a little bit so you can hear what Charles said to him.
You're a liar. That's 5.
Okay.
So you're kind of angry guy.
Yeah, I have a repressed rage.
Yeah.
Actually, to a rage issue, and it's
now his own self.
A rage issue.
And I have to tell y'all, this was a couple years ago now. Troy said so much stuff about his rage issue and his suppressed anger and his thoughts that were like, people would be hearing it say not healthy. His workplace had him like, hey, we need you to basically go through these courses because we're wondering if you're a hazard to the job. Now, I know someone might say, well, Caleb, there are Christians with anger problems. Yes, that is true. But here's the thing. We have governing New Testament documents that are trying to reel us back in. What incentive does he have to say, look, I can't be blowing up on these people. I can't be having rage issues with my fellow man. There's nothing stopping him from having rage issues. Here's the next man. He's a full-blown atheist. He's not an agnostic. And he was the local high school physics teacher. He had a master's degree, and he came out and he would have public conversation.
I despise, hate, detest, and loathe the Church of Christ and everything about it. I hate them. I really do. The better I get to know them, the more I hate them.
Now, you don't hear me say stuff like that. If you've been watching What Does the Bible Say, you've been watching it long enough to see me, my dad, and other people who've hosted with us, Mark McMinnis. I'm saying we don't have this thing where we come out and say, boy, I hate y'all. And if I could, I'd get rid of all of y'all. No, I'm trying to change minds. And I'm showing you tonight, look, this guy had a master's degree. He was the local physics teacher.
Thing about it.
You may not believe it, but that is true. And this is what I'm saying. They're the products. Now, if you're going to, this is what atheists and agnostics do. You watch the people, right? You say, I like Jesus. I don't like the Christians. Well, I'm doing the same thing right back to you. You take Charles Darwin, Alfred Kinsey, Richard Dawkins, and I'm basically judging them by the pupils they create. That's exactly what you do back to Christianity. Bob Lawson is a horrible example. 4-time adulterer, wants to fight everybody, put everybody in the ground. Troy, agnostic. He says, I got all this suppressed rage to the point where his workplace was saying, Troy, we're going to have you like evaluated. And then Larry Serber, master's degree, high school physics teacher, he says, I hate these people and I want to get rid of them.
I hate them. I really do. The better I get to know them, the more I hate them. I want to rid the world of the churches of Christ.
Now, let me give you context of what's happening here. Brad Harrop is a Christian. This is the debate that Brad Harrop did with Larry Serber, same man you saw in the previous clip. When they're doing their debate, they are standing in front of a green screen, and they were going to have like displayed graphics. There's a small table. They are very, very, because that green screen is not just a wall. It was like they were in this little tiny space together. Brad Harrop is there. Brad Harrop has a Ph.D. He was going to be representing the case of creationism against atheistic evolution. This is how the behind-the-scenes interaction went with an atheist.
I don't need that higher standard job. I get a standard. Is homosexuality right or wrong? Homosexuality is natural, and I think it's terrible to treat people like you want to murder. I think I understand. I think I understand. I think I understand. Look at you. I'm not homosexual trying to kiss you. I'm just trying to show you. I think I understand. I think I understand.
Do you see how close that grown man is to that grown man? He's the atheist, and he is acting crazy. And here's the Christian keeping his cool. I'm saying to Brad Harrop, big time thumbs up. A lot of people would not have kept their cool. And if Brad Harrop were Bob Lawson said, when you get in my face, there are consequences. He's the atheist. He's acting like a nut. Nobody acts like this. We don't act like this. And you know, I just don't understand how we're probably not going to get that much credit for this, right? This guy is being a nut. Brad Harrop is there to make argumentation, not to act silly and childish. Like, that's like schoolyard bully tactics. Keep going.
Look at you. I'm not homosexual trying to kiss you. I'm just trying to show yourself. Holding up a mirror to you, pointing back. You God lover. I think I was just telling you. You ought to be ashamed of that, man. You ought to be ashamed of a lot of things that happened tonight. Sickening. Homosexuality. Treat homosexuals nice.
We don't mistreat homosexuals. He said, treat the homosexuals nicely. Me saying I don't agree with the lifestyle, either spiritually or physically, I think that it's got problems both ways. That's not unkind. I just don't agree with it.
You're not going to do that to me.
Now, someone might say, these people misbehave because y'all stir their pot. No. Look, you do not get to say, I made you do something. Well, he made me do it. No, you have to practice self-control. I have to practice self-control. Now, here's my point. It's not us just stirring their pot and making these atheists and agnostics lose their mind. When you put the agnostic and the atheist together, look what happens.
That's not going to happen here. So I just want to say, let's treat each other
then
like
let me settle something.
No. I'm not going to get in a fight with you. Obviously, you can see you would be killed in 2 seconds. So that's ridiculous.
Well, there have been many people who made that mistake.
Yeah, I bet they have. Maybe a long time ago, old man.
That's
just stupid.
Okay.
Let's just not.
Well, it's obvious what you're trying to do.
I'm not trying to do anything but just say that I've seen you.
Well, then you're
in the
not
past.
very smart.
I've seen you in the past pointing at people and calling them
No, you
little
haven't.
weenies. Yeah, I saw you point at Charles and call him.
And he played no role.
I just told Charles wanted to do this, and I just told him I'm not going to be having somebody point in my face and call me a weenie. That's not going to happen.
Right.
That will not happen.
Well, see, that's just by bringing that up, that makes you confrontational right there. Because
Not really. I just wanted to set up the premise that you're not going to be pointing at me and calling me a weenie.
Okay, now you've said that like 8 times already.
Right. Well, don't do it, and we can talk. Let's just move on from that part.
Nice.
So, it's not me. An atheist and an agnostic, they agree and they can't get along. Why? Because they're really not, they don't have any reason to be kind, neighborly. Like, I don't know if they have even met before. And if you heard him say, you know, if we got into a fight, you wouldn't last 2 minutes, old man. And he says, yeah, people have made that mistake there in the ground. It's like, well, it's 2 guys who don't really want to fight, and they're just talking trash. Well, here's what someone's going to say now, and you've already said it. They aren't the product. You say, well, they're not authorities. He was a public school teacher. This man coming on, threatening this older gentleman. If you want to call Bob Lawson a gentleman, that's fine. I will for the moment. He's the public school teacher teaching your kids, and this is how he interacts with another human being who he actually agrees with. Can you imagine how he would behave with the people that he hates, loathes, and detests? Now, these are the products of Richard Dawkins, Charles Dawson. Charles, say it for me. Dawkins, I got his book here, The Descent of Man. Charles Darwin, Richard Dawkins, and Alfred Kinsey. They're the products. They're the pupils. Now,
Charles, you always pick a winner.
Well, I just want to establish that.
here are the authorities. In Martinsville, we have the Virginia Museum of Natural History. Okay? I don't know how many years ago this was, but my dad, Johnny, he had organized with the Museum of Natural History here in Martinsville, Virginia. He had organized with them that a homeschool group was going to get to come through. We were going to get to bring our own instructor, right? We're going to get to bring our own instructor, and we were going to get to videotape the tour. The museum was going to provide a tour guide, but the museum was told, hey, we don't believe in evolution, and we recognize that you guys are going to be presenting, evolutionary theories as we go through. We would just like to be able to have our instructor who could basically give his 2 cents. And the museum said that's fine. Well, when these adults plus the homeschool group showed up and Star News, the local news media source, was there, this is what happened.
Well, that's actually part of the policies. That's what has to be approved first by the board.
That's already been approved. I set up the tour, and I was assured we could bring all of our cameras in. Carolyn say set it up.
Yeah, that's actually not correct, and I'll check with her on
You
that.
know what? I had this camera when I went through. So don't tell me what's not correct and what's not. I was making sure that we're correct.
Okay, well, that's our policy there. So
Yeah.
if you have any questions, again, any places that's accessible to the general public, you guys, feel free.
But the public can use the cameras for the video game?
If the cameras are approved first by museum marketing personnel, which obviously, like I said, we try to be pretty limited.
See, here's how I set it up this way. We actually were very above board. I talked to Christy personally, and I necessarily agree with your take. Back and forth about our group size because we were afraid that we wouldn't hear Christy and him because we were planning on having a pretty large group. Right. And so, we were real clear about the camera part because we were going to go broadcast this on our own broadcast tonight. So that was all clear.
Right. Well, I don't know who's told or if anybody's told you, but our permanent exhibits are not finished yet and they're not open anyway for tours.
Okay.
So.
Why was the museum going to host a tour to exhibits that were not even finished? Why did they not say that on the front end when they said, yeah, you can bring a homeschool group through, you can bring your own instructor who has a Ph.D., and you can film it? And then when it came time and the local news media came, well, now we have a new policy and you guys can't come through.
Let's see, I came in on Tuesday. What is it, the Jamestown?
They definitely don't want us to be here.
What is it, the Jamestown? Right. Is that the one that's...
And this is what the Ph.D. had to say when we basically were told you can't go through.
Well, I would say they definitely don't want us to be here. It's pretty obvious from their reaction that, they like media as long as the media is, quote, on their side. And so, today we were wanting to have somebody walk us through, take a look at what they teach the students here in Virginia. And yet they're unwilling to do that. In fact, they pretty much closed us completely down. They don't want us to bring any cameras in. They don't want to really show us much of anything.
I understand they shut down an exhibit.
We think so. I mean, pretty much the only thing we had access to was what they called the Great Hall.
And then they start charging tickets too, didn't they?
Yeah, so I don't know what to think about the Virginia Museum of Natural History. I would say it's lacking a little bit on the museum side.
Now, he's not local. This had to be official enough for him to come in from out of town and agree to go through the tour with us. Brad Harrop is a Christian. He's one of my brothers in Christ. He does have a Ph.D., I believe, in neurobiology, and he was going to go through and have discussion with their tour guide to promote creation against evolutionary theories. Now, before we move on, I have one more, and then we're going to dive in, okay?
That does not answer the...
But let me say this. I say this every year. Look, let me preface with what I say every year. In your Bible, and this is for atheists and agnostics, I recognize it in the Bible. I don't know what Jesus' birthday was. December 25th is not in the New Testament. Fir trees, not in the New Testament, okay? So I get that. I do not do Jesus' birthday in December, okay? But here's what I do say. In the month of December, families give gifts to each other. A couple years ago, I did it on December 8th because I had to go out of town. I do not care about December 25th. But here's my thing. In December, you give gifts to each other, and this is what I would say. I don't know if you can see it with the lighting. Brad Harrop has a book called Convicted. A Scientist Examines the Evidence for Christianity. Brad Harrop, Ph.D. High school students ought to read this book. College students ought to read this book. Young adults, if a middle schooler can read it, they ought to read it too, and people ought to be giving this out as a Christmas present. It would be very good. I've read it. He's done a good job. Think about it. Look, everybody's got enough junk. Give them books that are going to help them shape their mind. Even someone says, well, I don't agree with creationism. I know that you don't agree, but you're going to have to hear the argumentation, right? That's how it works. I got to hear you guys out. We have to have dialogue. This is me having dialogue with young atheists, local atheists.
The universal moral standard. Do you know about the Nuremberg trials? That's where that's where they prosecuted the whole Nazi regime for what they did to Jews. Yeah. Like I'm saying. Are you familiar with Operation Paperclip? Wait, I didn't even get to finish. I'm familiar. Okay. So in Germany, it was in accordance with the laws for Nazis to persecute Jews. Is that wrong?
To me, I mean, to a Nazi list.
No. I'm saying, was it ethically, morally wrong for them to put into their government system it is okay to extinguish Jews?
If the collection, which is ethical, said yes, then it's ethically correct, regardless of whose morals it is or not.
Now, here's a young atheist. He is the product, again, of Charles Darwin, Richard Dawkins, the authoritative atheist, right? And he just said, ethically, there was nothing wrong with the Holocaust. And he's going to say more.
Okay, so what you just said was it was okay for them to put it in based on collection.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So in the 1800s, was it the moral collection of America to enslave blacks?
The ethical collection of the South, yes.
Okay, was it okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Young atheist, product, Charles Darwin, Richard Dawkins. Young atheist, he just said that in the 1800s, American slavery was okay. Why? Because the collection agreed upon it. Well, at some point, you're going to have to convince the collection what they're doing is wrong. Well, how are you going to do that if you don't have a governing document? Now, see what I'm saying? Last week I showed you that the sectarian community has a history of violence, and I'm saying tonight, y'all, that atheists are not doing any better. Bob Lawson, he wanted to hit everybody and put them in the ground. What's his name? Larry Serber, he wanted to get rid of an entire religious group. I hate these people and I want them gone. Troy, again, an agnostic, he said, I have suppressed rage issues to the point where his workplace saw his TV appearance and said, we would like to have you basically evaluate if you're going to keep working here. Now, here's what I want to talk about, though. These are, in the past, famous atheists. We're going to have Richard Dawkins up there. But I want to show you something. This is Antony Flew. Now, I'm going to show you this in just a moment, but I have this with me tonight. Again, I have read this book. I make a practice to not recommend books that I haven't read. This is the Warren-Flew debate on the existence of God. Thomas Warren had a Ph.D. He debated with Antony Flew, who also had a Ph.D. But look, here's his background. I was not always an atheist. I began life quite religiously. I was raised in a Christian home and attended a private Christian school. In fact, I am the son of a preacher. My father was a product of Merton College in Oxford and a minister of religion in the Wesleyan Methodist, rather than the established church, the Church of England. So, Antony Flew, who debated, he said, I know there is no God. He was actually raised in a religious home. This is Will Durant. Will Durant is one of the most famous, widely read American historians and philosophers. Will Durant. Will Durant was born to French-Canadian Catholic parents. He was educated at St. Peter's University, which is going to be a Catholic school, but later he became a professed agnostic. Not so far as to say atheist, but he was a professed agnostic, and right before he died, I'm sure that this probably really happened, but before he died, he confessed to a priest, as William Buckley put it. I'm sure he probably did do that. But before that stage, he was a professed agnostic. And then we have Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins was born to Anglican parents. He was sprinkled as a baby into the Anglican sect. And while he was at a Anglican-affiliated boarding school, he was molested by one of his headmasters. Now, here's my point this evening. I think that there is a lot to say here about people who are born into sectarian families and they are raised up in traditionalism. These men are all very, very famous. Now, tonight you may say the only one I know is Richard Dawkins. I can't help that. Will Durant books are everywhere. But these men were raised by Catholics, Anglicans, and Methodists. And here's what they all have in common. They were raised up in these religious schools. Some of them had fathers who were preachers for the particular sect, but this is what they all three have in common. They all teach this idea called inherited depravity, and what that means is God is punishing all of mankind for Adam's sin. Nothing you did. You are being punished for something somebody else did, and there's nothing you can do to fix it. And these young men, if they were raised up in these religious schools, they were being indoctrinated with this. This is one of the biggest points that these sectarian groups have, and I'm saying tonight that is not even a biblical idea. So I am a Christian, and I'm saying God did not start us out. I did not start out my life with a depraved nature. I did not start out my life with God already being opposed to me. God loved me, and God loved you. And He still does. And that's why He offers us the chance of having salvation. But this is what they were told. This is what they were taught in school. And then basically they all do this too. Catholics, Anglicans, and Methodists, they all sprinkle babies. So you're here, you have no say in the matter, and there's nothing you can do to fix your supposed depravity. And down here, a life decision was made for you that you did not consent to. It's like you're just born into Catholicism. You're born into Anglicanism. What if I decide I don't want to do that? Well, we already made that decision for you. Now, they all grew up seeing unbiblical, traditional pageantry. Look, if I understand you're agnostic, you're an atheist, and you grew up seeing a lot of dumb stuff in the sectarian community. I had some Bible studies with 3 local atheist men, and one of them said, I was raised up going to the Southern Baptist Church with my grandparents, and he said, but they were a little bit weird. He said they didn't really behave like all other Southern Baptists. They did a lot of running around and a lot of screaming. He might have been confused. They might have been independent fundamental Baptists. But here's my point. I'm sure you did grow up in a religious family, a sectarian family. If you're agnostic, and maybe you don't really know what I mean by that, you were in a church that you cannot read about in the Bible. You will not find Anglicans, obviously, Church of England. You will not find those in the New Testament. You will not find Roman Catholics in the New Testament. You won't find Lutherans in the New Testament. You won't find Southern Baptists in the New Testament. You won't find their practices or their doctrines. So I don't doubt that you grew up and you saw a bunch of crazy stuff, but here's my thing. You're upset with the Bible when in reality you just don't like man-made tradition. I don't either. And I would ask you, like if you're an agnostic or an atheist, I would ask you to please not judge me based off of what Southern Baptists, Anglicans, Lutherans, and Roman Catholics do. They do so much that I do not go with. Number one, Anglicans, not so much Methodists, but Anglicans and Roman Catholics are going to call their teachers Father. Well, that's absolutely contradictory to Matthew 23:9. This doesn't mean you can't call your dad Father. You'll find that all over the place. But what they're saying in a spiritual sense, you have one Father, your Heavenly Father. Well, they call these men, Father so-and-so. Open contradiction. Luke 20, verse number 46, they were warned in the New Testament to beware the Pharisees. Why? Because they just love to be seen of men. What's one of the things they do? They get these big garments, and what do we see today? Big robes, big hat, big cross, big sash. It's like everything to draw your attention. 1 Timothy 4:3, forced celibacy. Look, these men, because they made a decision to not get married, are not any more holy than those of us who did get married. 1 Timothy 4:3, this is a bad thing to forbid eligible people from getting married, but that's exactly what Catholics and Anglicans do for their priests. Extra biblical literature, what do I mean by that? These men, when they were brought up in these Anglican, Methodist atmospheres, or Catholic, Roman Catholic atmosphere, they did not just get presented with Bible information. They got catechisms, creed books. They had to learn a lot of extra stuff that God did not ever give us. It's just men's tradition, and one day they said, hey, we're tired of this. I get it. Now, with that, can I make a point? At the end of this, we still got 20 minutes to go. I'm going to show you 3 more things that are just horrendous from the atheist community. We're not done. But I would like to take a moment, okay? I'm showing you there's more to this atheist discussion. The men who were on the videos a moment ago, Larry Serber was raised up either by Methodists or Baptists, I can't remember. But I do remember that he said as a child he was forced by his parents, like anytime Billy Graham came on the TV, they called Larry into the living room and said, you have to watch Billy Graham. All these people who are atheists and agnostic, and I obviously can't say all 100%, but I'm saying a great number of these folk have religious background, and I think that they are actually upset with the man-made tradition aspect. I don't always think that it's the Bible that they're after. And can I say this? Is it possible that a great number of the atheists and the agnostics, they got mad at their parents and they got mad at church folk, and then as their mind was developing and they were getting old and they were forming their own opinions, they were already having a bit of a prejudice because of their parents and the church folk, and then that got transferred over to the Bible. Can I say something? Your parents and those church folk weren't even following the Bible. So what does the Bible have to do with them? They're just in tradition. You're mad at the tradition, not the Bible. I do think that's a big thing. Now, these people all had religious background, and they went against it. But when I say they had religious background, they had man-made sectarian backgrounds. They did not have actual biblical backgrounds. Now, this is what I want to say. Look, I only have an hour, right? But I'm saying if you do want to be an honest student, and what I mean by honest student is you can't just read the things you agree with all of the time. Okay? You're going to have to read some other stuff. So I've already shown you the Warren Flew debate, Thomas Warren, Ph.D., with Anthony Flew. Thomas Warren wrote another book, and this is a small book. You could read this in a day or two. Have atheists proved there is no God? I would recommend that. Now this other book, I just will make a point about it and then we'll go on because I want to show you more. Look, you see up there, there are a lot of reasonable religious people, and I'm saying reasonable Christians. And can I make a point here too? I say all the time that I do think that religious degrees are junk, okay? I don't put any stock, like when somebody comes out and they say, I have a doctor of divinity, blah, 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 get out of here, because you probably got it from someone you didn't even agree with. Like you went through their school thinking this is junk, and then you took their piece of paper. Thomas Warren has his Ph.D. in philosophy. I believe he got it from Vanderbilt University, okay? So it's like when a religious person comes out and they say they have a Ph.D., then you turn on Ph.D.s everywhere. Well, that has no value. In philosophy, Vanderbilt University. Now, here's the other book, God at a Distance. I have read this book also. God at a Distance by Carrie Duke. The whole point of this book, to agnostics and atheists, here's my thing. Agnostics and atheists, they say, if God exists, why doesn't he give us more evidence of his existence? Carrie Duke is going to make the case that if God actually did what atheists and agnostics want him to do, which is like manifest himself absolutely visibly, then everybody in creation would then at that point be forced to believe in him, and then it would become a begrudging system. But that's not what God is actually wanting. He's wanting individuals to use their intellect, seek him out, and then see that the Bible is presenting what message? Love God, love your neighbor. Is that so awful? No. It's going to be fantastic. I think that this book is fantastic. I love it. Hey, get it for somebody in December. Give it a gift in December, okay? Now look at this. Not only are there reasonable Bible believers, but there are people who will read this book and was actually present for the debate, and they will actually say, maybe I wouldn't have said it that way. This person wrote a review of the Warren Flew debate. You can read this book or you can watch it on YouTube. But the man who wrote this, he has a Ph.D. in philosophy from Harvard. Look what he said. I do not hesitate to say that I do not agree with either side of the proposition. No one can prove that God does not exist, and no one realizes this more than Tony Flew. That is why he had to spend time analyzing the language he was using. He knows God does not exist, he explained, like he knows fairies do not exist. Strictly speaking, he doesn't even know that fairies do not exist, for there just might possibly be one somewhere, depending on, of course, on what that word is meant to mean. He only means that the idea of God's existence is contrary to both his experience and his reason as he sees it. Then he goes on to say, but neither would I affirm that I know God does exist. The attempt to prove such is to make religion a matter of science rather than faith. This scripture makes it clear that it is a matter of faith, that those that come to God must believe that he is. I could say, I believe that God exists, and here are my reasons why. But even so, one never proves God's existence. The thesis that God is an axiom that one accepts as true and untrue. It is neither provable nor disprovable. God gives us evidence of his existence, and so we have grounds for our faith. That evidence may appear to us to be so overwhelming that disbelief itself becomes a mystery, but still it is a matter of faith rather than knowledge. If we could prove it, like we can prove oil to be lighter than water, then there would be no such thing as disbelief. But that is a point of religion, that it be grounded in faith, thus touching the heart more than the head. I don't really agree with that part. Religion is a love story, not an intellectual or philosophical system. That was mighty philosophical, what he all just said here, to say it's not a philosophical system. But here's my point. You guys think, atheists and agnostics, you think that we're just going to find the party champion and back him up no matter what. And I'm saying one Ph.D. heard the debate, and he said about the other Ph.D., Thomas Warren, I would have said it a little bit differently. And in reality, he's very, very close to what Carrie Duke is saying in God at a Distance. Carrie Duke also is going to be a doctor. So here's my point. It's like we can have doctors all over the place, and some people who are agnostic and some people who are atheists, they don't want to believe. And they don't want to have their minds changed, and they don't want to see any evidence. Well, I can't really do too much with those people. A few more things that you should look into. Evidence of Christianity by a man named J.W. McGarvey, a debate between Alexander Campbell and an atheist of his day, late 1800s, Robert Owen. And then look at this man's name is James Bales. He also has a Ph.D. and he is a Christian. He debated an atheist man named Teller. There's plenty of information, and I would encourage people, again, December's coming up, give these as gifts if you can find them, and if you're an atheist or an agnostic, I think that you ought to check them out, and I think that everybody has an intellectual responsibility to really invest in the opposing side. I know you might say, I've got a lot of Daniel Dennett books, I got a lot of Richard Dawkins books, and you just go on and on and on. That's very, very one-sided. You know, are you trying to figure out who's making the best case for creationism and Christianity, or are you just saying, I see the sectarian mess and it's awful? Well, I'm a Christian, and I'm saying the sectarian mess is awful, but I'm not a part of it. So, one more book, Miracles or Mirages, again by James Bales, who is a Ph.D. holder. There's plenty of things that you could look into, and we could be having these conversations. Now, I want to say this as we go out very quickly. You know, you've come in contact with a lot of sectarian people, and they're not very nice people. I don't know what my kids are going to turn out like. Obviously, I have hopes, and I've got a game plan for raising children, but at the end of the day, they have a free will. They're going to make up their mind. The best that I can do is try to teach them, and basically I can live as a good example to the best of my ability in front of them. At the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do. But I will tell you this. They are going to hear this for sure. And if you want to talk about indoctrination, this is what I'm going to indoctrinate my children with. It's like, well, boy, here we are. This is the Christian saying he's going to indoctrinate his kids. In Matthew 7:12, Jesus said, Therefore all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. I'm going to teach my kids to treat other people the way they would want to be treated. Now, in reality, we say that, and people say, oh, that's probably the best part of the Bible. But it is the case that if you were wrong to your own detriment, would you want somebody to help you? And you say, yes, if I were wrong to some extreme detriment of my own life, I would want someone to help me. Well, when Christians start trying to do that, I'm saying real Christians, not these ugly sectarians. When real Christians try to do that, you don't want that. And oftentimes help is misunderstood, a helping hand, and you know how that goes. I'm saying, you ever had somebody come up and ask you for money, and then you say, well, here's what I can do. I can get you a job. Man, you and your job, get out of here. You wanted to help them, really help them, but they weren't interested in that. Well, that's usually what Christians see a lot of. Matthew 22:39, second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. My kids are going to have that. I'm going to give my kids that. Hebrews 5:2, who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way, for what he himself also is compassed with infirmity. I'm going to try very, very hard to give a concept to my kids of compassion and empathy, and this type of documentation is all over the New Testament and the Old Testament. Atheists and agnostics just don't spend too much time talking about it. In Acts 20, verse number 35, the words of the Lord Jesus, how he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. I will hope that my kids are hard workers. I will hope that they are content with their state in life, and with those ideas of hard working and contentment, I hope that they will be generous people. This is in your New Testament. Now, I don't understand, like when agnostics and atheists come out and they're saying it's a book of fairy tales, okay, you are questioning the miraculous side of it. I hear you. I obviously don't agree, but I hear you. But I'm asking you, the question is, right now, if you throw the moral principles out, how are you going to replace them, and with what? Because the young atheist I talked to on the sidewalk, he said basically what the collection decides. Man, we didn't even set up the American government to be that way. You don't want the collection making the decisions. If everybody who's got a bad idea becomes the majority, the rest of us just suffer. That's not the way to make decisions. So where are you guys going to get your ideas from? And you just say, well, we're going to get it from other flawed people who are like self-willed and, you know, and they potentially playing other people. It's not a good idea. Now let me do this as we close. This is what we're getting from, I said we got more things coming. If you look at the sectarian histories of Anglicanism and Roman Catholicism, yeah, it's bad. It's violent. But the atheists are not doing any better, and this is what we're getting from atheists. Richard Dawkins, look at how the Atlantic put it. Richard Dawkins defends they put mild in quotes because he called it that. Richard Dawkins defends mild pedophilia again and again. And again, this is in reference to him being a young man, child, adolescent, whatever age he was. And basically the story goes, he said, we were just in the office, and he said the headmaster grabbed me, put me on his knee, and the next thing you know, he said he was putting his hand in my pants. And Richard Dawkins says, not only that, Richard Dawkins says it was known to have happened to a lot of his other classmates. And he said, I don't think that he did any long-standing damage to me. And his response later on in another discussion is people who do things like that, they molest, they rape, and they murder. He said they're just a computer with faulty wiring. That's why they do that. So I'm saying from the Bible that you and I are born with a conscience, and the conscience has to be educated. We can feel shame, we can feel embarrassment, we can feel empathy. Richard Dawkins says you are a robot. And when you do these bad things, it's faulty wiring. Well, how do you fix the faulty wiring? Like, if you're going to say that, what's the fix? Because on a computer, we can fix it. Well, Richard Dawkins is going to basically defend what he called mild pedophilia. And I don't really remember what it was that he did recently where he had a humanist award and the left side took it away from him. He had like some statements where he said he didn't believe in transgenders or something. So he's kind of like in no man's land, right? He defending mild pedophilia once, and then he turns on the transgenders, and now he's booted out of everybody's camp. Now here's Darwin, Charles Darwin, in his Descent of Man on page 201. Look at what he's going to say. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff being taught in the school systems right now, and we're all debating about whether or not it should be in the school systems or not, and I'm saying those are just byproducts. This is like the problem. School systems have been teaching Darwinism for so long, and it's like people can pay attention and catch on, and it's basically there, and the problem is a lot of parents don't pay attention. This is what Charles Darwin says in The Descent of Man. At some future period, not very distant, as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace throughout the world the savage races. I don't really know how it is he put these two together, the Australian, but this is who he thinks who Charles Darwin believes to be the savage race. He says, the break will then be rendered wider, for it will intervene between man and in a more civilized state, as we may hope, as low as a baboon instead of as at present between Negro or Australian and the gorilla. When you read his writings, consistently he will put Australians and what he called the Negro into the class of people as savages. And for Charles Darwin, he will always associate white Europeans with intellectualism and virtue. That's not me. I'm reading Charles Darwin documents to you. And that is the stuff, the indoctrinating material that has been funneled through our public school systems for years. Atheist, evolutionist. And it's like you guys are hating on the Bible when this is Charles Darwin's idea. Now, one more. I will tell you the next one's going to be graphic, right? This is a grown-up television broadcast, but I recognize that some people watch it with their children. So I'm giving you a heads up that this is about to be graphic, but it's atheist documentation and what we get from atheists. Here we go. Are you ready? I warned you. This is a book that I have with me tonight. It's called Sexual Sabotage, and Judith Reisman, is quoting from one of the biographies of Alfred Kinsey. I would say people need to read Judith Reisman's Sexual Sabotage. As a result, she says, Kinsey was consumed by guilt and he hated God. That is when he is a teenager. Now he's grown. In the second quote, he's a grown man, and he's been educated through college. A few years later, eugenics helped shape Hitler's Nazi agenda, and Kinsey was a party to this thinking. As he rejected the belief that all humans are created in God's image, Kinsey's dogmatic atheism supported his ideology. Now, are you with me? This is not the graphic part yet. We're almost there. Alfred Kinsey, who is called the father of the sexual revolution. Y'all know who the founder of Playboy magazine? Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner loved Alfred Kinsey. Basically, Hugh Hefner said, I'm here to complete Alfred Kinsey's mission. This is sexual behavior in the human male on page 180. This chart is here. Now, you have options for this chart. There are 3 options. Do you see what this says? Alfred Kinsey's findings say that they made an 11-month-old baby sexually climax 10 times within an hour. Another 11-month-old sexual climax 14 times within 38 minutes. So here's the option. The options are, number 1, all of this is fake and he just absolutely lied. That's what a lot of people believe. Number 2, it is stated that all of the reports in the Kinsey report really come from one inmate who was just either a liar himself or an absolute total sexual deviant. And option number 3 is that in fact, somewhere in some facility, Alfred Kinsey was molesting these kids, infants, and it somehow gets to be called science. That's what you get from atheists. You get installed racism from Charles Darwin. You get defense of pedophilia from Richard Dawkins and says you're just a robot anyway. And then Alfred Kinsey, you have, quote, science documented, but in reality it is full-blown, aggressive, criminal child molestation. So tonight as I go out, you have the responsibility to look into Charles Darwin's Descent of Man. You have the responsibility to look into Alfred Kinsey's Sexual Behavior in the Human Male. And another book that I did not bring on was basically his protege and sexual partner, Wardell Pomeroy, in his book, Sex and Boys, where he promotes bestiality. That's what we're getting from atheists. I know you don't like the sectarian community, and in all honesty, it's not good. It's not following the Bible. It needs to go out, and it needs to be replaced with New Testament Christianity. But the only way that that's going to happen is by you and me having these types of conversations tonight. Now, if you thought this was beneficial as we go out, we say, let people know about what does the Bible say on YouTube so they can be a part of these conversations. Get on the informer list so we can be a part of these conversations. If you're local, get in contact with us. We are up for critical thinking. We are fine to hear opposition, and we're going to continue doing this because we love you. We love the community. Thank you for being a part of this tonight. God bless you. Keep asking, what does the Bible say?